American history has always shown that it had its moments and decades when boxers would have his most popular fighters fight each other several times to claim supremacy. The 1900s would be no difference. Jack Dillon, who was known as the Giant Killer, to your left, and Billy Miss, who they called the St. Paul Thunderbolt, to your right, would mix it up several times to stake supremacy. I'm Scrapbook Boxing, and I would love to go through the careers of Jack Dillon and Billy Miss with you right here on the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Let's take a look at the future light heavyweight champion Jack Dillon and the ever so popular Billy Miss. Mix it up as the way the crowd saw it in the early 1900s. Billy Miss, who was known as the St. Paul Thunderbolt, he had a fighting career record of 53 total bouts, 45 wins, 34 knockouts, 3 losses, and 3 draws. He was born February 16, 1894 in St. Paul, Minnesota. He died January 1st, 1924. He was 29 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in St. Paul, Minnesota. He stood 6'1.5". He was a light heavyweight, and he had a 76-inch reach. He would begin his professional debut on a Wednesday night, March 5th, 1913. And he would end his career on a Wednesday night, November 7th, 1923. He would score a 4th-round knockout. Now, 1923 would be the year that Harlem, New York's Johnny Wilson would lose his crown to the Pittsburgh Windmill, Harry Greb. On his 5th fight, Billy Miss would find himself in a ring with future middleweight champion Michael Dowd. These two men would face each other in St. Paul. Why? Because they were both from St. Paul, and they had to find out who was the most supreme fighter in their town. You see, these two men were fighting for legacy and supremacy. Michael Dowd, who was to your left, was a very good middleweight. He would take the title away from Al McCoy. He would become a middleweight champion of the world. Now, he would face Billy Miss, and Billy Miss was a little jealous of Michael Dowd. You also had Tom Gibbons and Mike Gibbons. Between these 4 men, they would mix it up to find out who would be the champion of that town. And Michael Dowd and Billy Miss would not disappoint anyone of that town during the day, because they would get it on and fight as champions. Now, Billy Miss would also find himself in a ring with Al McCoy, Frank Klaus, Harry Greb, Battling Levinsky, George Chip, Mike Gibbons, Mike Mantell. Now, all these men were champions, but Mike Gibbons would stake claim to the middleweight championship belt when Stanley Ketchel would be killed by Walter Dipley in 1910. But outside of that, he had remarkable fighters during that day. And Billy Miss would face Frank Klaus 3 times, having 1 draw and 2 losses. Battling Levinsky 3 times. October 12, 1916, he would defeat Battling Levinsky. October 30th, 1916, he would defeat him again. But February 27th, 1917, he would lose to Battling Levinsky. And Battling Levinsky would eventually lose his light heavyweight championship belt to George Carpentier. Billy Miss would also face Kid Norfolk twice, and he would lose to him twice. He'd also be in the ring with Jack Dempsey twice, 1 loss and 1 draw. Bob Moha 4 times, 3 wins, 1 draw. Harry Greb 3 times, 2 losses, 1 draw. Frank Moran, he would defeat him. Frank Moran was a very big heavyweight, along with Gunboat Smith. He would also face Tom Carler, faced him twice. Bill Brennan 3 times. Bill Brennan would get an opportunity to face Jack Dempsey, the Manasseh Mauler, 1920. Billy Miss would also face Tommy Gibbons. He faced him twice. Tommy Gibbons was the younger brother of Mike Gibbons, and he himself would get opportunities with Jack Dempsey, Gene Tunney, Harry Greb, and many, many others. Tom Gibbons is sitting to your left, and he was some fighter, but when he fought Jack Dempsey, he would lose to Jack Dempsey. They would fight in Shelby, Montana. And after that fight would go bankrupt. It was one of the most boring heavyweight fights in title history. Now, Harry Greb is to your left, and he would give Billy Miss a boxing lesson each time he fought him. Harry Greb is one of the greatest fighters of all times. I have him ranked number 2 in my selection of fighters. I have him right behind Sam Langford. Harry Greb fought the majority of his career with one eye. Phenomenal fighter was Harry Greb. I just wanted to give you somewhat of a perspective of some of the fighters who fought in the 1900s. This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. All great fighters and all great fights will never be forgotten on my channel. Salute to my subscribers. Salute to Jack Dillon and Billy Misk. Thanks for hanging in there with me.